All right, guys, we are in crash mode right now. We're going to take two main topics we're going to talk about today. It's going to be the major indices, uh, macro view on QQQ SPY, and we're going to talk a good amount about CFVI switching to RUM. Okay, and there's some other news, some other stocks, so stay tuned. So first of all, headlines: FedEx, FDX down 22% to a multi-year low because they're warning about a global recession. They said don't count on our forecasts. EPS coming in much later than expected, and it's really about the sentiment of global recession. Their commentary is what's important here, not the exact numbers. The rest of the market is acting on the commentary. FedEx may also have some of their own issues. You can see here at 160, it is now at the pre-market high. But that the pre-COVID high. But that pre-COVID high was down from companies, a lot of other stocks. It could be that FedEx also has its own issues. In fact, I shared an article in the VIP trading room about how UPS is doing better than FedEx, and there's some individual issues with this company here. That being said, there's definitely global slowdown. The market is taking seriously. Approximately the thing that people are looking at is Amazon and e-commerce, so that's going down right away. You can see that right now. It's at the 20 DMA, 20-week. That's even more important. 20-week moving average. So if it falls below that, we definitely can retest the lows. Now, what's all this mean for QQQ and SPY? Before we get into the minutia of down 1.4%, 1.7%, I got to pull back to the weekly chart, and I can only go 5 years here, but this goes back to that like 20-year chart I've been sharing on the weekly about how important this 200-week moving average is. And it's a demarcation line between a healthy economy and an economy that has a fundamental issue, which could take a year or more to fix. The three times we broke below the 200-week moving average on the SPY, three times. It was the dot-com bust, great financial crisis, and the COVID crash. Okay. The COVID crash, it was only below for like a week. They pumped the system with liquidity and it was back over the 200-week moving average. The other two times, the dot-com bust and the global financial crisis, once it went below the 200-week moving average, that's this line right here. So in this case, once it went below 270, if it happens with QQQ, right, it stayed below it and found it took months. It took about 6 months to find 6 quarters to find a new low. Okay. So this is that demarcation line. This is the worry in terms of the long term for the stock market on SPY. You can see it here at 360. And I did detailed chart analysis of this before on desktop where we could see not necessarily like the moment intraday or something like that, it breaks below, you're in trouble. You really want to see what the following week does. These are weekly candles, and you could have fake outs, right? So let's say you close the week below the 200-week moving average, which is a possibility. You want to see what it does the following week. It's probably going to retest it. And does it reclaim it, or is it going to be pushed down again when it retests that 200-week moving average? If it does get rejected a second time at that 200-week moving average after breaking below, then that's a really bad sign, and that's a sign it could be, history says it could be 4 to 6 quarters or more of going down further to find the bottom. Now, another way I want you guys to look at this is, and I talked about this 6 months ago plus, right? We talked about the excess liquidity created by COVID. So if this was a pre-COVID high right here at 336, and then you had all of this excess liquidity that got pumped into the system, the initial drawdown is getting rid of that excess liquidity. So the initial drawdown is getting to like 336 on SPY, right? Theoretically, we've seen that happen with a lot of other stocks, individual stocks, growth stocks. They lost their COVID liquidity premium 6, 7, 8 months ago already, right? You saw those charts. It's like the Christmas tree charts where they lose that liquidity. And now what we're potentially seeing is now we got a price in recession. So imagine none of this ever happened. Imagine we're back in at late 2019 levels. There was no COVID, and we're saying, let's erase the injection of liquidity and taking out the liquidity, and let's just jump to recession. So at 338, then where do you go? You go lower? These are the arguments for, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but these are the arguments for why the SPY and QQQ could go below the 200-week moving average in the intermediate term. Now, more proximally, next week we have the Fed meeting, FOMC, I believe it's on Wednesday, and there's that whole discussion of, is it going to be 0.75% or 1%? Lots of opinions on why FedEx is coming out now and saying it. By doing this, does this decrease the chances the Fed is going to be aggressive and go to 1%, right? Lots of interesting things. Why now? I'm trying to remember why. What caused it? What caused people to say we're going to 1%? Oh, it was inflation. Wow, so much happening so fast, right? So the CPI came in. CPI came in hot, and people are like, oh my gosh, now there's a chance of going to 1% from 0.75%. Now FedEx warns, and everyone's like, oh, okay, now we can't do 1%. We got to go to 0.75%, right? So this is the craziest of what's happening next week. So approximately near term, I think if the Fed maybe sticks with points. Now I don't know. Now I don't know what the expectations are. See, now we're going down because of recession, not necessarily because of the interest rates, right? So there's two different things pulling on this. It's higher interest rates bad for the economy, also recession bad for the economy. So, when you have higher inflation, people are like, all right, we got to go to the 1%. If we do if you set the expectations for 1%, they only do 0.75%, you can get a rally, right? Now, I have to check. I bet you the chances of 1% have dropped precipitously this morning. It jumped to like 20 to 30% after the hot CPI print. Now with the FedEx, I bet you the chances are dropping. I don't know. It's going to be crazy. And if the Fed does 1% by any chance, look out below. And you may have to look out below anyway because of recession. I mean, I think the only way you kind of get out of this is if the Fed suddenly becomes dovish. That's it. You got to watch what the Fed says. If it happens, and most people think that's not going to happen, but if the Fed comes and says, economy is slowing down really fast, we're going to, start not being as aggressive, or we're going to think about not being as aggressive. If they make comments like that, then I think you can see a rally. If they continue to be hawkish with really tough talk in the face of what is clearly a very fast slowdown in the economy happening, look out below. And QQQ SPY very low. I'm concerned about. Now let's look at the technicals here. I mean, I already told you guys that we already broke that support that's going to take you to retest the lows. So that's in play. That's been in play now for several days, especially once that hot CPI came in. So retesting the lows here is coinciding now with this 200-week moving average at 272 on QQQ. So that's really, we're going to be testing this soon. Most likely, we're going to be testing this very important level, which is now coinciding the 52-week low and the 200-week moving average, probably going to be retesting that soon. Okay, same thing with SPY right there. Now, you guys play this like you like. I'm not giving any advice. I like to stock pick. I like to beat the odds, right? Sometimes it's very satisfying, and we've made a lot of great picks this year that have beaten the odds, CFVI being one of them. So let's look at CFVI. CFVI, yesterday we had a live show as the vote was unfolding. We really did a great job of accurately predicting that there would be a sell the news event here. Okay, you can't predict 100%, so I kept some shares in case it would go the other way. If you listen to our live show, by the way, big kudos to SPACFest, who was on our show. He helped me understand the bear thesis and potential bear targets, which made me really have clear eyes about, this thing's going to sell off. Not only is it a sell the news event, but there's going to be fundamentalists out there who want to short this thing to $5 to $8 because that's where they think the thing is worth fundamentally. But there's a lot of things that go into it. I'm not going to go into all the details. You kind of know my view. But, man, I went to deep dive for about 2 hours on live YouTube, Rumble, everything yesterday. And in real time, we kind of nailed this. And I was looking for a bottom of about 1150, and we got it. And why was I looking for that? Because of these two moving averages, the 200 DMA and the 20 DMA, and this candle right here, the bottom of this candle, the bottom of this candle, the top of these two candles. It all converged on around 1150. So it did reach there and it stabilized. Look at that. 1150 is your temporary support. Now, CFVI is going to trade under RUM on Monday. Okay, it's going to trade under RUM on Monday. I'll make a prediction. It may not work out, but we'll see. I think we hopefully even, because I want to get back in, I'm a little underweight now with my trading shares, but I think that this stock could have a rough day, a rough morning because of what's going on with the major indices. But I think towards the end of the day, you'll see this being bid up in anticipation of the ticker symbol change to RUM. Okay. Fundamentally means nothing. Sentiment means everything. Okay. Shareholders and people who want to put more money into this, who might be underweight, who sold the top, they're going to be excited. They're going to think when this changes under RUM, that's a huge marketing boost. It's legitimacy. They're actually public. Boom, boom, boom. The stock's going to go up. So I think you may see a strong afternoon in CFVI. You may see an end of day push, an end of day bid in the last 30 minutes, last 15 to 30 minutes. You may see that. So I'm hoping we actually drop in the morning because I'd like to buy more to go into Monday. And I do think Monday could be a good day because of everything I just talked about. And also because on the first day, when a ticker symbol changes names like this, a lot of brokers I've personally experienced restrict you from selling the stock on the first day. And I think that's what leads, by the way, to a lot of those crazy de-SPAC moves. Now, that's also because it's a low float. This stock's not a low float, 0.1% redemption, okay? It's going to be, 200 million shares, okay? 200 million shares, a lot of that's locked up, okay? But it's not a low float stock. However, on day one, there's going to be an artificially low float on day one, artificially low liquidity, because owners will have a tough time selling their stock. In my experience with both Fidelity and I think E-Trade, the only way I could do it is call in and wait on the phone for like 15 minutes for them to sell the stock. Now, maybe because it's happening over a weekend, they're going to get all their ducks in a row and the accounts will be fine on Monday. I'm not sure about that, but maybe that's a possibility. I don't know the dynamics and logistics that go behind making this possible. But in any case, you can see these support levels. And I've talked about a long time here where several days I've been repeating it on the morning shows, on the show yesterday. I think 5 to 8 is a possibility if the shorts get the upper hand temporarily. It's not going to stay there. There's too much interest in the stock, too much sentiment. If it happens, that's a screaming buy, in my opinion. Shorts may get too short. You can end up having short squeezes. This is going to be a battleground stock. And the way I see it, 5 to 8 is a strong, strong buy zone. I think 8 to 12 is your chop zone, right? If you're a nimble trader, you can try that, right? Try buying the dips, whatever, 8 to 12. And then I would say 14 to 20 is your sell zone. Especially, don't forget, there's going to be 100 million shares of dilution if they reach $15 for like 20 days out of 30, and then $17.50 for 20 days out of 30. You get another 100 million shares of dilution. That's going to weigh on the stock. It's going to be hard to get this above $15 to $20. So just reiterating again, 5 to 8 strong buy zone, 8 to 12 chop zone, 14 to 20 sell zone. That's what I'm doing. That's not advice. I'm not a financial advisor. That's my prediction for what's going to go on with this stock. I think it's going to be a battleground stock, very, very highly volatile for an extended period of time, at least through midterms, probably at least through 2024. I mean, this thing is going to be crazy volatile. All right. So one of the things that you may want to consider too is selling options on this. The selling covered calls, maybe selling puts. The implied volatility is going to be very, very high, but I think it's going to end up being choppy and range bound within those ranges I talked about because there is a good bull thesis and a good bear thesis. And on both sides are very passionate and very opinionated on this. This is a perfect situation to be selling options in the next 6 months or so. So that's the story of the CFVI. All right, let's go back and look at a couple individual stocks. FREY was our trade of the week pick. We're winning. StoryTrading, hopefully, going to be in first place on the Wolf Financial Spaces show with our FREY pick. And I sold almost all. I sold all my trading shares at a very good prices. So this one worked out at like $14.30 to $14.50. I sold all of my trading shares. I even reduced my core position a little bit, especially when the market is the way it is. I wanted to take profits where I could. So congrats to everyone who did well on FREY. You all know the story. You know the fundamentals. You know the catalyst. If you don't, you can take a look at some of our past videos. Okay. GOEV. What was the story here? Insider buy. So we nailed this yesterday. Yesterday was a great day for us. We nailed so many stocks early in the morning. So got in at 265 pre-market on the insider buy, combined with the technical signals we talked about yesterday with the gap fill over here, and I sold it in the 280s, 290s. I was looking. I said $3 was resistance. What is this 6 month? We got to go to 1 day here. Okay, then I can see it more clearly. The 20-day moving average was your resistance, so you can't be greedy in this market. 280s, 290s was good enough for me. I sold. I'm out this morning. Got a price upgrade from an analyst. Canoe, not an upgrade. That started at buy by Stifel Nicholas, $4 price target. So we'll see if that momentum continues. It's going to be hard today on a day like today. KMPH, another one we nailed. That's been on our radar thanks to Chris. I did a trade on that. I think I'm all out. I have to check if I still have a position. But I was trading the stock, did well on that, was up all day on the upgrade to $20. And the technicals really breaking out of the 200 DMA. Look at these moving averages. It looks like all these kind of bullish crosses about to happen. And on the weekly chart, it is, let's show you the weekly, because the weekly is really interesting. On the weekly, it's broken the 50-week moving average. I think this could have a $10 price target. If I didn't know about the macroeconomic situation and the wipeout and QQQ SPY right now, I'd be so confident about this. I'm like, this thing's going to 10. Can it happen anyway? Maybe. Maybe it's not going to be hit with liquidation. I mean, Air has been doing great. Air's acting like the stock market's not liquidating, right? And I said this yesterday. If I didn't know anything about what's going on in the macro, I mean, I would be balls to the wall in Air. I mean, the technicals look great. The catalysts are great. The fundamentals of future 6 months, 1-2 years from now, as they're getting these contracts, it still looks like it could be a good buy. So we called initially a $16 price target when on technicals, and then when we got the news, we said 18 is your resistance. Got very close to 18 today. I don't know if it's going to make it, but I'm interested if it pulls back. I'm underweight on this. If it pulls back to like 1570, 20 DMA, I may get in more. I'm really interested, though, in these support levels down here in the 200 DMA to 50 DMA. Maybe if we get a nice market wipeout, who knows? We get a Black Monday, it's possible. Then maybe we can pick up Air in the $12 to $14 range. Another thing to look out here, highly volatile, is selling puts, perhaps, is something you'd want to look into for AEHR, really bucking the market trend over there. All right, there are a couple other things needed to bring to your attention. We talked about KMPH, CFVI. Oh, VTSI had some news. Some contracts not published is, again, on the government website. It's $600,000, right? It's meaningless compared to the $9 million, but it adds to the sentiment. They're both federal, orders, so it adds to that. Now, look at the chart here, though. You're nearing a bullish cross 2,200, and if you go to look at that. If you go to the weekly, look at that. Look at the 50-week moving average, and it's sky blue above it. So I don't know. Like, it's hard to imagine a big buyer coming in out of the blue on no catalyst in this market condition to take it above. I would guess you're going to need a catalyst. You're going to need news or something to break above the 50-week moving average. If that happens, boom. It looks like it's sky blue to at least $7 on VTSI if that happens. But we also have downside to 520. And that could happen also with the market liquidating like this. You got to know what your downside is. GANX, last day to get in if you want to take a risk and play the data that's being presented tomorrow on Saturday. We had the presentation on it Monday night, the VIP presentation. I mean, I don't know. They probably wouldn't schedule a late breaking entry into, poster presentation if the data wasn't good. So probably the data is going to be good. The question is going to be how good is it going to be? What's the PR going to look like on Monday? And is it going to be enough to break above the 200 DMA? If the market was great, I would say, yeah, for sure. But just with the market the way it is, you really don't know if it's going to be enough. Two more stocks we want to look at. PHRRF had news this morning. This is the psychedelic stock, and I'm not deeply familiar with the stock. I know we had a VIP pitch on it by Colton Tao, but has been MIA, as a lot of people have this year. So I'm not sure what is going on here in terms of the balance sheet and their cash runway and how good really is this data. I like the words in here. I like how they're saying that the data is good enough to go to phase 3. And I like the numbers, 51% reduction seems pretty good. So potentially you see a bid in PHRRF, but I mean, they only had $9 million as of February, and I didn't get a chance to this morning to go look at their cash burn, but they probably need to raise money at some point. So can they get a move today? Yeah, they maybe can on this news. So this is something maybe I'll try to day trade on if it doesn't move, right? If I can get it in at 998 cents or 10 cents max, like something like that, then maybe I'll jump in for a trade, and who knows, maybe get 15% out of it, something like that, possibly. Okay. But I'm a little bit worried about offerings and stuff like that. So at this point, I don't know the stock well enough to just buy it and hold it. Last thing, AUGX VIP pick had an incredible day yesterday. I reached out to James, who presented this VIP pick, and I actually looked. Hey, shame on us, me included. He put in August 15th. They had great earnings, and he put his notes in why he thought the earnings were great on August 15th. And look, it broke that 50-day moving average, vacillated up and down after that. But look at this high volume, broke out to the 200-day moving average. Were they at a conference? I think they were, and maybe that's why it got more attention. Or they announced yesterday. They announced yesterday they're going to be at a conference on September 28th, September 29th. So I'm not sure who this buyer is. Doesn't seem to be a proximal catalyst, except they're presenting. It could be someone with big money finally stepped up to the plate after the earnings last month. This is a health tech company, AUGX. So we'll reach out to James to see if we can get an update on that stock. And all right, that's about it. You know, SMSI has been bucking the trend, really, really solid. It's in this gap right here, possibly up to $3. But, you know, RSI was relatively low. It's starting to get to 7, relatively speaking, where it peaked out last time. And with the market the way it is, I don't know. I don't know if this can hold up. I think we could see some profit taking today or in the near term on that. And that's about it. I'm really over time. Market sucks. This is a really hard environment. You know, I'm going to continue what I love doing and what I think I do best, which is stock picking. We've picked a whole bunch of winners this year, a whole bunch of stocks that buck the market trend. So if you want to continue doing that with us, this is a place to do it. Let's continue collaborating in the chat rooms, and we'll see you next week. We got a couple events, I believe. Tuesday, we have an interview with PHUN. That's going to be public, though. Fun, PHUN. By the way, they've had a great chart. So just a quick preview on PHUN. I don't know what's going on there, but we're going to talk to management to find out what could be going on and what could be driving this outperformance of recent. So that'll be on Tuesday, and we'll let you know what our agenda will or will not be for this coming Monday night as we see Fedex down 22%. So sorry, guys, don't have good news for the major indices. It looks like we're going to retest the lows. Going to be hard to avoid that. And let's see if we can buck the market trend with some trading around CFVI and some of these other names we talked about. Good luck, everyone.